Disclaimer: the movie clips and pictures you are about to see are owned by New Line Cinema, or also owned by Warner Brothers. Please support the official release by buying the DVDs, Blu-ray, or watching on streaming services. Thank you. Hi, so today we're going to be looking at the final Austin Powers movie, Austin Powers and Goldmember. Now, from what I can remember when I was younger, when my parents just let me watch these movies because God knows why, yeah, I believe this was the first one I saw, and yeah, I know, like, compared to the other two, a lot of people see this one as the weakest, but yeah, it's definitely the nostalgia talking. I still remember liking this movie quite a bit. So, with that rather quick introductions, I don't really know how else to start this video. Let's get into the movie. The movie begins somewhere in Utah, where we see a woman on a motorcycle being chased by a helicopter, but thankfully Austin Powers comes in to save her and... Hey, wait a minute, that's not Austin Powers, that's Tom Cruise! Okay, the other woman not being the same from the last movie, that I can forgive, mostly because, well, they replaced Vanessa anyway, so let's just assume the other girl is with the other Austin from 10 minutes ago. But then they get intercepted by Dr. Evil, who doesn't look right, and neither does Mini-Me. What the hell's going on? Well, it turns out this is all just the set to an Austin Powers movie that Steven Spielberg is making. Austin, of course, has some criticisms, but the main one being, this movie needs mojo. And then it all leads into a big opening dance number with Austin and I'm assuming his fans to start dancing around the movie studio until they run into Britney Spears, who turns out to be a fembot, and Austin destroys her, saying this line in the process.
Oops! I did it again, baby.
Then we cut to Dr. Evil's Hollywood lair, where we see Dr. Evil and Mini-Me back from space, somehow not still in the 60s, where we then start talking about a plan involving a man named Goldmember who developed a tractor beam. But before we can elaborate any further, Mini-Me falls asleep. So they wake him up with some chocolate, leading to another one of these overly drawn-out bits where he makes fun of Scott. Okay, every movie has this joke, and I don't know, I always felt like it went way too long. Like, with the first movie, all he did was say shit over and over again, and there were some funny varieties, but it went on too long. Second movie, he kept saying zip it, and that obviously went on too long. In this movie, he's just insulting him, with Scott kind of being in on the joke, but I don't know, I feel like every single one of these jokes in every movie just went on way too long. Yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest because it was always around these parts I kind of mentally zoned out due to him. But then he gets back on track and brings up how they did try to build a tractor beam in the past, they just couldn't get one to work. But since now they have Goldmember, his plan is to travel back in time to the 70s and retrieve him. But then Austin comes in and has him arrested. No joke, he actually gets put on trial and gets sentenced to 400 years in prison, leading to Austin getting knighted by the Queen. But when he calls for his dad to take a bow, he kind of bailed on him during the ceremony. So then Austin decides to party, hopefully to keep his mind off this, where he then meets up with a couple of twins whose names I will not say because, just like most of the women in these movies, their name is a sexual innuendo. But before Austin can have too much fun with them, Basil comes in telling him some bad news. Apparently his father was kidnapped, which at first Austin is glad about because he thinks that was the reason he was not at the knighting ceremony, but he was kidnapped afterwards, so yeah. But so then he brings in a couple of people who were supposed to guard him, who all of their privates were painted gold, and they figure the only way to figure out what's going on is to maybe talk to another madman. That, of course, being Dr. Evil. Where we see Austin visit Dr. Evil in jail, where Dr. Evil brings this up, how they're not so different.
Remember when I told you we're not so different, you and I? We're not so different, you and I. See, I did say that.
See, I told you that'd be important later. But then he starts making fun of him for having dad issues, leading to a flashback where they're both in some sort of academy, and Austin got an award. They don't really specify what it's for or what it's about. And when his father was asked to bow, just like the knighting ceremony, he bails on him. Then Dr. Evil says he'll give Austin the information he wants in exchange for being transferred to a regular prison just so he can be with Mini-Me. Wait, they weren't locked in the same cell? So Austin agrees and Dr. Evil gives him the information he wants. Where we then cut to the Ministry of Defense time travel hangar, because of course they have one, where we see that the new time machine for this movie is the Pimpmobile, and Austin uses it to go to the coordinates that Dr. Evil gave him in exchange for the prisoner transfer. And when he goes to the location, yeah, it's clearly a roller rink from the 70s, where we then see a woman start singing about Goldmember, which Austin tries to pay attention to the song in hopes of figuring out more about him. But then Goldmember shows up anyway, so yeah, I guess the song was only there because they got Beyonce. And we see that Goldmember is rather flexible and it's kinda gross. Afterward, the singer and Austin have a chat, and apparently her name is Foxy, and she's currently using a body double to make it look like she's not talking to them, even though it's kind of obvious. And here we learn they do have some history, but the movie kind of just expo dumps her backstory and everything all at once here, and it honestly feels kind of rushed. But long story short, Austin's father's in the back room where he doesn't take too much time to find him. Yeah, he's clearly enjoying his captivity, but after him and Austin have a bit of a friendly father-son bonding moment, we see that the bed is actually a rotating one that goes into another room, where they meet face-to-face with Goldmember, who tells him something that's kind of obvious, judging by what he's wearing, the club he's in, and his name.
I love gold!
Where he then goes on to try and relate to them by saying they're all swingers, but yeah, that kind of goes nowhere. Then Austin's father, his name is Nigel by the way, tells him that he doesn't like the Dutch. He ends up kidnapping him with Foxy trying to help, but he gets away with him to the future with Austin and Foxy not following too far behind in their time machine. Where we then cut to the Georgia State Penitentiary where Dr. Evil is now being held, and he gets a visit from Frau, who's in a pretty obvious disguise, where she tells him some good news that Scott actually wants to take over his business, which he's actually proud of, leading to him telling her his backstory about how he was adopted after his parents supposedly died. Yeah, trust me, this will be important later. And then they start making out, mostly for the purpose of her sneaking him a key just so he can escape, where we then see him and Mini-Me just with the other prisoners, where Dr. Evil tells them that they're going to start a riot so they can escape, and one of the inmates' reaction to that is honestly, in my opinion, one of the funniest lines in the movie, in my opinion.
Hey man, I know guys on crack that makes more sense than you.
Where then Dr. Evil starts rapping to It's a Hard Nut Life from Annie, and that's all it apparently takes to get the other inmates to go through with the plan. And when they do go through with it, Dr. Evil and Mini-Me get away on a motorcycle that was from the song sequence. Yeah, I have no idea how they got the bike. That was just kind of out of nowhere. Then we cut to Austin and Foxy, who are now back in 2002, which was where this movie takes place. And then Basil comes in telling them that Dr. Evil broke out. But the good news is, they actually have a mole on the inside. And we see it's some guy we did see earlier. I didn't bring him up because he wasn't important until now. And the running joke with him is that he's a mole and he has a mole, which Austin and Dr. Evil are very distracted by. But all jokes aside, he tells him that Dr. Evil right now is somewhere outside Tokyo, Japan. Which is confirmed to be true when we see his submarine lair that looks just like him in Tokyo Bay. And it's here where he explains in more detail what he wanted the tractor beam for. And it was so he could bring a meteor to the ice caps, causing a global flood. And when he tries to demonstrate this with miniatures, it all goes horribly wrong. But then Goldmember reminds Dr. Evil that he did kidnap Nigel Powers, and when he's brought in to be shown, he ends up taking out the guards that escort him. But then Mini-Me comes in and brings him back to his cell, and it's here where he actually makes kind of a nice friendship with Mini-Me. Then we cut to Austin and Foxy, who make their way to Japan, and Basil tells him that one of Dr. Evil's associates is at a nearby sumo arena, and when they get there, they come across Fat Bastard, who actually exchanges money with the person supposedly working for Dr. Evil. So they sneak into the back to hopefully get some answers out of him, but before he can talk, they have a bit of a fight, and after they win, he does tell them the info they need, that the guy he's looking for, his name's Roboto, and that he's also helping build the tractor beam for Dr. Evil. Then we cut back to Dr. Evil's lair, where we see Scott and that he's actually balding. As well, he has a gift for Dr. Evil, and it's sharks with lasers on their head, something he's wanted since the first movie. So, because he's proud of him, he has him sit next to him, while excluding Mini-Me, which kinda makes him feel neglected, unfortunately. Then we cut back to Austin and Foxy, who are following up on the lead that Fat Bastard gave them, leading to them talking to a man named Mr. Roboto. And most of this scene is just a bunch of subtitles getting in the way and being misinterpreted, and yeah, I'm not going to say what they are. I'm going to leave it to your imagination to figure out what these actually said. Unless you've already seen the movie, in which case, you get the joke. But unfortunately, Mr. Above doesn't have much intel to share with them. But Austin doesn't believe him and still thinks that his father is still in the building, so they decide to do some investigating, leading to a joke where Austin unplugs a fountain and tries to pee in it to make it look like it's still going. Yeah, this goes on for quite a while. Then we get the Goldmember and Roboto, where he's actually giving Goldmember the last piece to the tractor beam, as well as a golden key to get it to activate. But then Foxy comes in trying to stop him, until he brings up that he has Nigel strapped to an overly elaborate death trap, but when they go to save him, he gets away. So they go after him in Nigel's car, and during the chase, they crash into a dinosaur statue, causing it to move, leading to what's probably the funniest joke in the whole movie.
Run! It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla! Though it isn't.
After that pretty funny joke, they still continue their pursuit on Goldmember, but unfortunately he gets away in Dr. Evil's submarine. So Nigel suggests they just storm the place and take him out, but Austin prefers to, sneak in and actually take him out that way. Then they start arguing about how he wasn't really much of a good dad, while he still tries to argue to Austin that he was a pretty awesome dad. Yeah, this argument doesn't really go too well, and they decide to separate. Then we cut to Austin's hotel, where we see that Mini-Me is actually switching sides, and the mole is thanking him for it. However, Austin doesn't get the news in time, and when he comes in, he's on the phone, so he literally starts beating up Mini-Me. Yeah, I'm happy stunt doubles and fake dummies exist, because if this was real, he would have probably died from all the abuse. But thankfully, the mole gets off the phone and tells Austin what the situation is, and he apologizes for beating him senseless, leading to Mini-Me to now dress like Austin. Okay, so little fun fact. The whole Mini-Me being a small Austin was actually in the original teaser trailer for the movie. Yeah, it starts off by kind of showing Foxy in silhouette, but then it cuts to Mini-Me in like the little Austin costume. And it's literally nothing but Austin's opening scene from the first movie, just recreated with little people. Not gonna lie, if you haven't seen this trailer, I highly recommend it. It's actually quite interesting, and you might get a good laugh out of it. Now with Mini-Me on their side, they go underwater to chase Dr. Evil's submarine lair. Yeah, the car they're in is also a submarine. Where we then cut to Dr. Evil, who makes his next demands to the world government. Well, money demands to be more precise.
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion, million yen.
At first, they think he's bluffing, so to call their bluff, he uses the tractor beam to move one of their satellites out of orbit. And this leads to a similar joke from the last movie where they're describing Dr. Evil's rocket. However, that time it was a dick joke, this time it's a boob joke, so I'll just move on from that. But Austin and Foxy make it to the submarine and quite easily get inside of it. Then we cut to Dr. Evil, who is talking to Mr. Roboto, who now wants a bonus for the fact that the tractor beam works. But then Scott comes in looking more bald, and he ends up sending him into the shark pit, proving that Scott is actually turning more evil. Then we cut to Austin and Mini-Me trying to sneak around, where they do eventually make it to a locker room. Unfortunately, there's only one uniform, so they try to make the best with it. But they get called into a physical where they end up getting spotted. But Mini-Me is able to escape and meet back up with Foxy. Where we then cut to Austin being taken by Dr. Evil, and he's about to demonstrate the power of, well, the tractor beam. But when he goes to get the key's actually missing. Yeah, Foxy and Mini-Me got to it first, and now with the tables turned, Austin decides enough is enough and is about to just shoot Dr. Evil and just be done with him. But then Nigel comes in to stop Austin, and the reason being is that Dr. Evil is actually Austin's brother. Yeah, when Dr. Evil brings up how he was adopted, yeah, that was from earlier in the movie. Yeah, Nigel brings up that back then there was an attack on his life and him and Austin got separated. And now with this new information, Austin now has to contemplate whether or not to shoot his brother. And you know what? He doesn't. And everyone comes together all happy, except for Scott. Yeah, now he's really pissed off that he spent all this time in the movie to get Dr. Evil to like him, but now that he's brothers with Austin, he's gonna try and become good, which makes Scott even more angry. So he runs away like a little girl vowing revenge. But then Goldmember comes in and tells Dr. Evil this.
You might not want to destroy the world, but I do!
Yeah, he's gonna go through with Dr. Evil's plan. However, Foxy still has the key to the tractor beam and throws in the shark pit. But luckily for Goldmember, his crotch doubles as a spare key, don't ask. And when he reactivates it, Dr. Evil is able to step in and reverse the polarity, causing him to get electrocuted and destroying the meteorite. But then as Goldmember gets up, he turns around and he's John Travolta. Yeah, the movie kind of abruptly ends with all the cast going to see the Steven Spielberg movie that we saw at the beginning. As well, Fat Bastard lost weight. Yeah, he went on the Subway diet. Then the movie comes to an end with Foxy kissing Austin, and Scott, now looking like Voldemort, saying he's gonna get Austin Powers. Even though this is the final movie. And that was Austin Powers and Goldmember, and I gotta say, yeah, I still really like this movie, like all three of them. I still think this is a good trilogy of funny movies. Was there jokes that didn't work? Of course, every movie, or at least comedy movie, has jokes that just don't fly with everyone. So, for a little bit of fun, and given what I named my channel after, let's look at my Austin Powers DVDs. Yeah, I know it's only 3 DVDs, but I figured might as well put it here at the end instead of just giving them its own video because, like I said, only 3 DVDs. There's not much to talk about. Okay, let's start this off with Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. There we go. Sorry about the glare. Yeah, this is probably one of the earlier DVDs, and here's a list of the bonus features. Let me just... Yeah, it should be okay to read, right? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, this movie has a lot of bonus features, mostly some fun deleted scenes, the original trailer, and actually several alternate endings. Yeah, I did not know that for the longest time. Like, me and my brother one time were at a Best Buy, and we actually found a Blu-ray of this movie, and we read the back, and yeah, we had no idea there was multiple endings for this movie. Quite the discovery. And on the inside, we have another one of these old paper inserts that tell you the scene selection. Yeah, I never really got the point of these. And it's one of these early annoying DVDs where it's double-sided, like one side's full screen, one side's widescreen. Yeah, I still prefer some of the other DVDs I have where it's a menu option, not a which side of the disc you're on option. Next up, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I think is my brother's favorite movie. Once again, here's the back. And here's a list of what the possible bonus features are. And thankfully, unlike the other DVD, it's only one disc. You don't have to like swap the size anymore. So, yeah, thank God. Even though it's kind of one of these weird, like, depending on which angle you look at it, discs. Yeah, there's not much else to this DVD. And now the third movie is kind of an interesting one because, from what I remember, we did get all 3 movies at once, but I think we got them all through the bargain bin at Blockbuster Video back when that was still around. Now, with the third movie, Austin Powers and Goldmember, we got the Infinifilm version. Now, what's that? Well, we didn't know for the longest time because we just bought it because we wanted the movie. It wasn't until recently where we decided to just watch all the bonus features on these DVDs. But with this one, we couldn't find them because they weren't labeled as bonus feature. They were labeled as something connected to Infinifilm. And what it was is, when you watch the movie, a menu would pop up, and it will ask you if you want to watch a behind the scenes, deleted scene, trailers, or any other extra stuff related to the current moment. Not gonna lie, it was actually pretty cool to watch this movie that way. So, yeah, if you have an Infinifilm movie and you haven't tried the Infinifilm gimmick yet, I recommend it. It's actually quite fun. And thankfully, the disc is normal. Okay, let's move this. We have this little paper insert once again, like the whole scene selection, like mumbo jumbo, which I don't really get. But this is quite interesting because these are just a bunch of random coupons and advertisements. And this one always makes me laugh. You save not $1 million, but $5 on the original DVDs to the first two movies. Not gonna lie, this one little joke kind of made me laugh. Yeah, I know it's only 3 movies, but they look okay together. And yeah, I know there's a Blu-ray set for these movies, which I'm happy with the DVDs. However, there is a 4K version of the first movie, and I kind of want to get it for one reason. If you remember my video on the original movie, I did say there was an extended cut that was for foreign markets, and yeah, apparently that 4K DVD does have the extended cut, and I kind of want to get it for that reason alone. However, it's only the first movie, not the extra 2, and I'd rather just buy all 3 on 4K in a box set instead of just paying the $40 for the one movie. And that covers the entire Austin Powers trilogy. I thank you all for sticking around this month of April where I decided to do comedy movies, so I want to hear your opinion in the comments. Should I do more of these? Like, every month, or no, every year during the month of April, do you want me to do comedy films? Because I'd really like to hear your feedback because I'm still new at this. I want to hear how I can improve. And if you're a family member, just tell me in person, for God's sake. So yeah, with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope to see you again in my next video. Take care.